When we look at an investment, I mean, it starts with how Pam and her team does the evaluation through the diligence process. And what you learn through the diligence is something about the DNA of an organization. And that's really important. So when we think about the DNA of an organization, and then we look at our overall exit optionality, we always want to start with the end in mind. What are we capable of doing from a growth perspective? How are we going to meet the base case that we actually put together in our assessment of the company through diligence? So when we think about growth optionality, it's really important to say there's different types of growth that are going to meet and mirror with specific types of companies. And it has a lot to do with the management team and their capabilities. So if we look at this, M&A is a good example. I would say a common trait of executives and CEOs that we work with is they like to do M&A and they like to do global expansion. At least that's what they believe. But what we talk about is not all teams are suitable for M&A. As an example, I grew up in the GE Capital system over 20 years ago, and we did a lot of M&A activity. And there's some companies that do M&A really well, and GE was known for it at the time, and I was a part of that. And then there's some companies that don't do it well. We want to make sure that we're positioning our teams to do it really well. And so that would be an example of M&A. Are they the right management team? And what I find with mergers and acquisitions or acquiring companies is often we're looking for a growth accelerator, but you do not want it to decelerate growth. And that's if you don't have the right structure in place. And most often that happens with M&A is it decelerates your growth for a period of time. So we want to avoid that. The next is global expansion. So if you're thinking about going into a new geography, it's really important. So we see, we want to take our products over to the MENA region, over to Europe, across India, Asia, South America. That all sounds great. But what I can tell you throughout my career, I've worked on 5 different continents. I've built teams on 5 different continents. And what I can say is that there's challenges when you do that. There's opportunities that we want to take advantages of, but we want to make sure that we are addressing those challenges so they can set up these teams for success. So we look at, with the exit in mind, we say, what is the best path forward for this company? And then for us as Manitree is what type of influence that, do we have that can make a very positive impact? So what that leads to is the overall exit optionality. Exit optionality is really important to have. So when we look at investments in the diligence, phase, is we want to find out where could we go with this investment and what could an exit look like. A lot of times we might be the last money in, and therefore we want to make sure that there are buyers for the companies that we do invest into. So let me give you an example. When we invested into Vital Farms, we knew that Vital Farms was going to need a lot of activity on our side to help kind of push things forward. And so I joined the board right away. We started the conversations about what an IPO could look like. Realized it was 15 months of work to actually prepare for an IPO. And I was right in the middle of that. And so we had to provide the right level of influence. And certain things that we did is we completely changed out the board, at least 50% of it. We added more diversity in gender, ethnicity, as well as diversity in background. So that was really important for us to do. That enabled a successful IPO. And also we had to make sure the management team was prepared for it. So there's a lot of things that we did. We rolled up our sleeves. I joined a lot of the internal board committees to really drive a successful outcome from an IPO perspective. But there's other exit optionality out there as well for other investments that we have. It could be SPACs are really active right now. So we do look at the SPAC space. That could be an opportunity. Acquisition from a strategic buyer, a financial buyer, management buyout, which could be from a different investment firm. So there's a lot of options, but it all ties back to our original thesis. We start with the end in mind to say, where could we go with this investment? And then what kind of influence do we have to help make a positive impact on this company or our investments to get that return that we're looking for? So it's a space that we really enjoy. And what the theme that I want you to walk away from today is we like to be active. We roll up our sleeves. We want to get involved. We want to leverage the depth of our network, the depth of our experience amongst our team, and also the depth of our advisors that we tap in for their knowledge base to really provide a positive impact on these organizations.
Brent, thank you. And one of the things that I know we have to keep kind of forefront in our minds that is the importance of, as Pam has once said it, brick by brick, really thinking about each investment, one investment at a time, coming in at the right spot, exiting at the right spot, and really being thoughtful in the way that we work with companies. So I'd love to bring up our Fund One portfolio. And if you could just share a little bit about the work that we've done specifically within our current portfolio companies, and some of the exciting kind of opportunities that you see ahead, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I ended the last section on, what is influence do we have and what role do we play? We're going to be active. So we've talked about Vital Farms quite a bit, but one other highlight I would say is Verde Farms. So Verde Farms is we like to call it an honest beef company. And what role have we played? Well, we were the first investors into this company, even though they're a 15-year-old company, and even though they've got very high, their revenues in a very good spot and so forth, is they didn't have a functioning board outside of the two founders. It wasn't dysfunctional, it just wasn't a very broad board. So we actually leveraged our influence, built a very capable board. We brought in the CEO of Johnsonville Sausage, which is a very large organization across the US, as well as the former chief marketing officer of Kraft Foods, to really round out a very high performance board. Now we're doing the same thing with the management team, because we want to do great things with Verde Farms. We've got to have the right structure in place to go fulfill that. A good example with our plant-based investment in Nutriati, we realized that some of the data was not as where we want it to be, both from a financial reporting perspective, but also the overall forecasting of the business. So we worked alongside of the CEO, the board of directors, to replace the CFO, and it was done successfully. Everybody managed through it very well, and it really brought us the right type of relationship with the numbers. That's important to do. We got to understand the data, and we also worked alongside of them to replace our sales partner, brought more sales in-house. We want to be closer to the customer. And so the theme here is that we're always trying to be involved to add a positive impact. And really, like with Gotham Greens, it's what relationships do they have? We're introducing them to prospective new customers and expanding their relationship with retailers, and also doing a lot of work with the board to really position it for what's next for Gotham Greens. So the theme here is that we roll up our sleeves, we get involved, we leverage our expertise, and we're really trying to work alongside of these companies to give the outcome that we planned, from the early stages of the investment.